Alright, what's up guys, JR here. Today is, if I can get this order in here, today is, it's Thursday, March 30th, 2017, and we're going to take a trade. It's a bit risky, it's counter trend because as you can see the bias and everything has been up all day, but the main reason why I like this is because if you notice we have a short-term trend line working up, you get a break right here, and then you get two legs up to a new high. I also drew a trend line off these first two swings. I dragged it up to the top, and we're coming right off the upper end of our trend channel line. And basically when you come off one side, ideally you'd expect to head to the other side of your channel. So I like this for a short because I'm thinking that we have the longs trapped, and if you'll notice we also have a double top up top here, and we have first entry long right there, pullback, second entry long right here. Technically it doesn't fail until this bar right here, although this is really the third attempt, and if you'll notice we're really going sideways at that point, and this is kind of like a retest of these highs, and basically you're shorting essentially at the top of a range. So I like that for a short. Pretty sure that we have these longs trapped, and as you can see we're kind of moving down a little bit, and I think once we break beneath this level we should definitely get a nice little surge and influx of selling into the market. I just think that the biggest obstacle at this point is actually making it through this this EMA right here. But I do like this setup. Nice bearish reversal bar coming off the upper end of our trend channel line. I got in here a tad bit late, so I put a limit order in, and it actually put me in one tick better. So what I'm actually going to do is I think I'm going to drop down my target to, no, I'm going to leave it where it is. I'm just going to go ahead and mess around with the 2-point target and take that off right there in the middle of the channel. But basically our first exit is going to be 64.50, so that's going to be 1 point, and then our second exit is going to be, let's go for 60.50, a nice 4 point. So once again, this is a bit aggressive. It's counter trend, and typically in a strong uptrend day like this, you don't want to trade counter trend. I just think that we have them trapped right here due to the circumstance of coming off the upper end of the trend channel line and having a break of our short-term uptrend with two legs up to a new high. We tested the top of our channel, and then we attempted to go higher multiple times, and now we have a nice bearish reversal bar after what appeared to be a long setup. So I'm fairly certain that we have them trapped, and the trap will really initiate if we can make it through this EMA and through this level. You should see the bottom essentially fall out, and we're about due for a correction after this move up. So hopefully this turns out to be a good trade, but it's aggressive nonetheless. You're probably better off to sit back and wait for a long opportunity, because for all I know I could be trapped right here. We could overshoot this channel and we could just keep going higher. We could get a whole nother leg like this one up and just keep going, but I like taking this to see if I can take advantage of the possible trap. And yeah, so just gonna go to pause really quickly, and actually we'll see if we can. Alright, so we got that first target filled. We're out right there, and I'm pretty sure that the bottom's gonna fall out when we get a few ticks beneath this, and definitely a few ticks beneath that as well, because I know people were buying all throughout this region, and we're about due for a correction. It's about time to come back and at least attempt to make it back to the lower end of this line. So we'll see what happens, or we could just get a failed breakout and we could turn up here, since if you'll notice we're going sideways right here, and most breakouts do in fact fail. We might not get the continuation to the downside. We could just get a failed breakout and then just pop right back up, retest this, and maybe even overshoot it. But glad we got the scalp portion at least. Our initial entry should have been 65.25, so let's just hang tight for a second and see if we can get 64 flat, so that way we know for a fact that we would have been out on this trade. But let me go ahead and mark it, and this probably won't even be on the chart review because it is counter trend. Sorry to say that, but I mean, if you really understand the dynamics of what's going on, sometimes you may want to take a trade like this, because you'll see that there's a trap setting up, and it's an opportunity to get your 4 ticks, and sometimes it beats waiting for it to come all the way back down to the other end of the trend line. And but there's risks involved, so you have to weigh the pros and cons, and we'll see. Hopefully we get a nice sell-off. I think that's what we're gonna get, but I'm gonna go back to pause, and I'll be back when something changes. Alright, so I'm looking at this after the fact, and I think I'm not going to go for 4 points on that. I think I'm just going to go ahead and take it off right before we hit that midline, because we could touch that midline and bounce. So that's going to make it, I think that is, what is that, 3.5 points? Yeah, so that's what we're going to do instead. And we're ticking off our exit right now, so pretty nice trade. Pretty nice trade, I must say. Boom, there we go. Nice short, nice short. It's counter trend, but when you really understand the dynamics of what it is that's going on and where prices are most likely going to turn and why they do what it is that they do, you can really kind of gauge when it's safe to take a counter trend trade, or when it's safe to, I mean, it's really never safe to take a counter trend trade, but if you understand what's going on, then this isn't necessarily counter trend, because it is in fact a trap, and our movement up essentially should be complete. We have a short-term uptrend working up. You get a break right here, and then you get one leg, pull back 2 legs up to a new high, and then you get your trend line off these first 2 swings. You slap that line up top here, and if you notice, that's where we turn down to the tick. Then we pull back, try and go higher once, try and go higher again, try and go higher again, and then this is what really trapped them, because this looks like a bullish setup. It's right off the EMA. You can kind of treat that like a second entry, and then you turn up. You get this bearish bar, which ticks one tick, I think that's 1 or 2 ticks above this incredibly bullish bar, and then turns down and closes on its very low. So you got them trapped. You got them trapped there for sure. And as you can see, this is pretty indicative of a trap, the way we just kind of sell off out of nowhere. And yeah, look at these charts and you'll really be able to understand why that happens and how to be able to capitalize on that. But that's it for today. This is JR. I'll probably see you guys again sometime next week. I just wanted to do something a bit different, kind of take a more abstract trade as opposed to a typical second entry, failed second entry. This is more of, I guess you could say, more of an advanced setup. So I wanted to kind of demonstrate that. And that was good for, let me actually do the math instead of, 1 second. Alright, so that was 2.5 points. So the first contract came off at 1 point, and then the second contract came off at 2.5 points. So that's a total of 3.5 points on that trade, and I think I did pretty well by taking it off before the midline. We could continue going lower, but that's a good gauge of where we could potentially bounce, and we could experience a failed breakout for this little area of congestion right there. So nice trade, satisfied with it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, but this is once again, this is a bit more risky, and this is a bit more of an advanced setup, and with time, stuff like this becomes easier to see. But that's it. I'll see you guys sometime next week.